Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
On August 11, 2025, President Donald Trump made a shocking announcement from the White House. He said the United States federal government was taking immediate control of the police force in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital city. From that moment, the city's own local leaders would no longer be in charge of their police department. The president said this was an emergency action. He stated it was necessary to fight what he called terrible violence and crime in the city. This decision surprised many people. It was a very powerful and unusual use of presidential authority. It changed who had power in the capital very quickly. The plan began right away. The government ordered the deployment of 800 National Guard soldiers. The National Guard is a reserve part of the military. They can help with problems inside the country, like natural disasters or big protests. These soldiers started moving into the city to support the local police. They were told to be a constant presence on the streets to show the government's new control. President Trump gave the operation a special name. He called it Liberation Day in D.C. He promised to take our capital back from dangerous criminals and make the city safe again for everyone. This federal takeover was unprecedented. This means an action like this has not happened in over 50 years. A special law from 1973 gives the president this power, but it only applies to Washington, D.C. No other city in America has a rule like this. It is the first time a modern president has used this authority to seize control of the city's police. The decision completely bypassed the city's elected leaders, including the mayor and the city council. They were not asked and had no say in the matter. The federal government was now in direct command. This action raised serious questions about the rights of a city to govern itself. It created a major political conflict and made people across the country worry about the balance of power between the federal government and local communities. 2. Why did this happen? President Donald Trump explained why he took control of the city's police. He gave a serious reason. He said there was too much violence in the capital. In his announcement, he said the city had violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. President Trump stated that Washington, D.C. was one of the most violent places in the United States. He declared a crime emergency. This emergency was his official reason for the federal takeover. He said his actions were necessary to make the city safe again. But many people were confused. They looked at the official crime numbers, and these numbers told a very different story. The Department of Justice is part of the U.S. government. It keeps track of crime statistics for the whole country. According to the Department of Justice, violent crime in Washington, D.C. was not getting worse. It was getting much better. In fact, from 2023 to 2024, violent crime in the city went down by a large amount, 35%. This was a very big change. Officials said that crime was at a 30-year low. This means it was the safest the city had been in 3 decades. The good trend did not stop. In the first 7 months of 2025, the numbers looked even better. Violent crime fell another 26% compared to the same time in 2024. Specific types of serious crimes also decreased. For example, the number of homicides, or murders, dropped by 12%. Assaults with dangerous weapons went down by 20%. The president's team did point to some bad numbers. They said that in 2024, the city had high rates for robbery and murder compared to other large cities. And it was true that crime did increase a lot in 2023. But the numbers fell just as fast in 2024 and 2025. This created a major contradiction. The president was talking about an emergency, but the official data showed a city that was becoming safer. This made people wonder about the true reason for this surprising action. 3. The special law. President Trump's action was possible because of a special law. This law is only for Washington, D.C., and is called the Home Rule Act of 1973. This law is very important in the city's history. For many years before this act, the people of Washington, D.C. could not choose their own leaders. The U.S. Congress and officials chosen by the president governed the city directly. The Home Rule Act changed this situation. It gave the residents of D.C. the power to elect their own mayor and a city council. This is called Home Rule, and it means the city can manage many of its own local problems. However, the law did not give D.C. the full independence of a state. The federal government kept some important powers over the city. One of these powers is in a specific part of the law. It says that the president can take control of the city's police force. This is only allowed when there are special conditions of an emergency. President Trump used this reason. He said that crime in the city was an emergency. This is the legal justification for his decision to take control of the police. This presidential power is unique. No other city in the United States has this kind of rule. The president cannot take over the police in Chicago, Los Angeles, or any other city. That power belongs to local and state governments. The special power to control the police in the nation's capital belongs only to the president. This makes Washington, D.C. very different from every other American city. This event is historic. The Home Rule Act is 52 years old. In all that time, no president has ever used this emergency power to take over the D.C. police force. Legal experts say that while the president's action might be technically legal, using it in this situation is unprecedented. It is the first time a president has used this authority in this way, which has surprised many people. 4. The attack. The government gave a big reason for its actions: too much violence in Washington, D.C. But the immediate cause, the final push for the takeover, was a single violent crime. This event happened just days before the president's announcement. The victim was a young man named Edward Korestein. He was only 19 years old. In the past, he worked for a special part of the government. The attack happened on the night of August 3rd. Mr. Korestein was with his partner when a group of 10 teenagers attacked them. The police report said the teenagers tried to steal their car. The attack was very serious, and Mr. Korestein was badly hurt. It was a terrible experience for the young man. Police started an investigation and soon arrested two 15-year-old boys for the crime. President Trump's reaction was fast and very public. He used his social media account to share the story. He posted a graphic photograph of Mr. Korestein after the attack. The picture showed the young man with no shirt and with blood on his body. It was a shocking image for people to see. With the photo, the president wrote an angry message. He warned that if Washington, D.C. leaders did not fix the crime problem quickly, he would have to take federal control of the city. He said it was the only way to make the city safe. This one attack on Mr. Korestein became the official reason for everything that happened next. It was the final catalyst. The president used this single crime as proof that the city's leaders were failing. This one event was enough for him to declare an emergency. It was the reason he gave for sending hundreds of National Guard soldiers onto the city's streets. The attack on one person was used to justify taking control of the entire police force, even when crime statistics showed the city was actually becoming safer. 5. The city's leaders speak. The leaders of Washington, D.C. did not agree with the president's decision. They spoke out against the federal takeover of their city's police force. They were angry and worried about what would happen next. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, held a press conference. She said the president's action was unsettling. This means it made her and many people in the city feel worried and upset. But she also said she was not surprised. She knew the president had threatened to do this before. Mayor Bowser said she had little power to stop him. A special law for Washington, D.C. gives the president this kind of control. This law is called the Home Rule Act. It means D.C. is different from other American cities and has less power to rule itself. Mayor Bowser wanted everyone to know that the local police chief, Pamela Smith, was still in charge of daily police work. The mayor said she would try to meet with the new federal leaders. She also said the real solution is for D.C. to become a state. Statehood would give the city more power to govern itself and protect its people from the federal government. Other city leaders were also very angry. The D.C. Attorney General, Brian Schwab, said the takeover was unlawful. He said there was no real emergency to justify it. He promised to look at all legal options to challenge the decision. His job is to protect the rights of the people who live in the city. The D.C. Council, the group of elected city officials, agreed. They released a statement together. They said the takeover was not necessary because crime in the city was at a 30-year low. D.C.'s representative in the U.S. Congress, Eleanor Holmes Norton, also planned to take action. She said she would introduce a new bill. This bill would try to take away the president's special power to control the D.C. police in the future. The city's leaders showed a united front against the president's actions, even if their legal options were limited. 6. A divided country. After President Trump's announcement, politicians in America had very different ideas. The country was divided. The two main political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, did not agree with each other. The news about Washington, D.C. created a big argument among the nation's leaders. Most Republicans in Congress supported the president's action. Congress is the part of the government that makes the country's laws. The leader of the House of Representatives is called the House Speaker. The Speaker, a Republican named Mike Johnson, said that President Trump was right. He wrote online that they could not let crime destroy the nation's capital. Many other Republicans agreed. They believed the president was doing the correct thing to make the city safe. They thought it was a necessary and strong decision. But the Democrats were very angry. They said the president's action was wrong and dangerous. They believed the president was using too much power. A famous Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, said President Trump was trying to make people forget about other problems in the country. The D.C. Council, the city's local government, also said the takeover was not needed. They released a statement that said the action was unlawful. They explained that there was no real emergency, because violent crime was at its lowest point in 30 years. Eleanor Holmes Norton represents Washington, D.C. in the U.S. Congress. She was very unhappy. She said she would try to change the law so this could not happen again. She planned to introduce a new bill. This bill would take away the president's special power to control the D.C. police. A senator from a nearby state said he would help her. But making this bill into a law will be very difficult. It needs many votes, and many Republicans will probably vote no. This big disagreement showed how divided the country was. Not just about crime, but about the power of the president. 7. A warning for other cities. President Trump made it clear that his plan was bigger than just Washington, D.C. He said his actions in the capital city were an example for the rest of America. During a speech, he gave a direct warning. He said that if he needed to, he would do the same thing in other cities. He specifically named Chicago and Los Angeles. He said he hoped Los Angeles was watching what was happening. This announcement made people across the country very nervous. Many worried that the federal government could send forces to other cities, especially cities with mayors from the Democratic Party. While the president cannot take over the police in other cities like he did in D.C., he can still send federal agents and the National Guard. He did this in Los Angeles earlier in the year against the wishes of local leaders. Civil rights groups said this was a very dangerous warning. They believe it follows a familiar pattern. They call it a special plan. The plan works like this. First, the government says that crime in a city is out of control, even if crime is actually going down. Next, it blames the city's Democratic leaders. Finally, the government says it must step in to fix the problem. This gives them a reason to send federal forces and violate people's rights. These groups also pointed out that this strategy often targets cities with large minority populations. The ACLU, an important civil rights organization, said the strong actions in D.C. could easily be used in other cities with many black and brown residents. They named Chicago, Oakland, and Baltimore as possible targets. They feel the government is using the idea of law and order to control communities of color. A community organizer from Washington, D.C., said that everyone should pay attention. She warned, "This could be you, your children, your grandmother." The events in D.C. were not just about one city. They were a serious warning for the entire nation. 8. What happens next? The president's new control over the D.C. police is temporary. A special law for the city says the takeover can only last for 30 days. After 1 month, things must change. If President Trump wants to keep federal control for a longer time, he cannot decide alone. He needs approval from Congress. Members of Congress will have to vote to say yes or no. This will create a major political battle in Washington. The Republican Party mostly supports the president's actions, but the Democratic Party strongly disagrees. They will fight hard to stop any extension. This event makes everyone ask important questions about power in America. How much power should the national government have? And how much power should local cities have to govern themselves? Finding the right balance is very important for a free country. For a long time, cities have made their own decisions about things like police. Now, the situation in Washington, D.C. challenges this tradition. It forces a national conversation about the rules of government. For the people living in D.C., the future feels very uncertain. They worry they might lose their right to local self-government. They elected their own mayor and leaders, but now a federal official is in charge of their police. What happens here also sets an example, or a precedent, for the rest of the country. Mayors in other large cities are watching carefully. They are concerned that the president could use this as a model to interfere in their cities too. This moment is a serious test for American democracy. It is a test of the country's principles of shared power between the national and local levels. The outcome will show how strong these principles are today. The decisions made by Congress and the courts in the next weeks will be very important. They will affect the rights of all cities and the limits of a president's power for many years to come. Do you think a president should have the power to take control of a city's police force?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.